Plato was a Greek philosopher who lived in Athens more than 2,400 years ago, roughly between 427 and 347 BC. Athens is the city that invented democracy. It was not a new experiment even in Plato's time. It had already been running for decades. This is important to remember today. Many people talk as if democracy is a modern invention and the final, perfect system at the end of history. Plato shows us that democracy is actually very old, and it had already been tried and found wanting. Plato grew up during and after the Peloponnesian War, a long and disastrous conflict between Athens and Sparta. Athens was the leading democracy of its time. Its citizens met in large assemblies, debated, and voted directly on laws, war, and peace. Plato watched this system up close, and he was not impressed. He saw democracy lead to serious mistakes, reckless wars, and eventually defeat. He lived through the chaos that followed, including a short period of tyranny, and then the restored democracy that put his own teacher, Socrates, to death in 399 BC. In his famous book, The Republic, Plato described democracy as a flawed and dangerous form of government, only one step above tyranny in his list of regimes. He explained that governments tend to decline over time. The best system, according to him, is aristocracy, rule by the wisest and most virtuous people. But this slowly breaks down into democracy, rule by ambitious warriors, then oligarchy, rule by the rich, then democracy, and finally outright dictatorship. Plato's biggest worry about democracy was what happens when freedom and equality are taken to extremes. In a democracy, people begin to think that liberty means everyone can do whatever they like with no limits. Authority weakens. Students no longer respect teachers. Children disobey parents. The old fear the young. Everyone insists on being equal, even when it means ignoring real differences in talent, skill, or character. The city turns into a colorful mix of every possible lifestyle and opinion, but it loses order and direction. He used a famous comparison. A democratic society is like a ship at sea. Instead of a trained captain who understands the stars, winds, and navigation, the passengers take a vote on every decision. They argue loudly, flatter each other, and choose whatever feels good in the moment. The real expert is ignored. The ship drifts off course and eventually wrecks. Plato was especially critical of how leaders rise in a democracy. They do not succeed because they are wise or competent. They succeed because they are skilled speakers who know how to flatter the crowd. These politicians promise the people more freedom, more equality, less work, and fewer rules. The voters, driven more by emotion and short-term desires than by reason, keep supporting them. Over time, this excess freedom creates disorder and chaos. When things get bad enough, the people look for a strong champion to restore order. That champion often seizes total power and becomes a tyrant. This was not just theory for Plato. He saw Athens make terrible choices through majority vote. The Democratic Assembly approved risky military adventures, such as the disastrous Sicilian expedition during the Peloponnesian War, which destroyed much of Athens' navy and army. They executed or exiled good generals when things went wrong. They were easily swayed by emotional speeches instead of careful planning. Even after losing the war, the democracy sentenced Socrates to death on flimsy charges. A clear example of the majority punishing someone simply for asking uncomfortable questions. Plato believed most ordinary people are not mainly guided by reason and truth. They are pulled by desires, pleasures, fears, and popular opinion. When the majority rules without wise guidance, the society slowly drifts away from what is truly good toward whatever feels good right now. Even today, many of Plato's observations still ring true. We see leaders chosen more for charisma and catchy slogans than for real wisdom or proven ability. We see excellence and merit attacked in the name of equality. We hear constant demands for more freedom and rights, with little talk of responsibility or self-control. Public debate often rewards whatever is popular or emotionally appealing rather than difficult truths. Plato's proposed solution was philosopher kings, rulers who are trained in wisdom, love truth more than power, and put the good of the city above their own popularity. Many modern people reject this idea as too elitist, but his core warning remains powerful. Democracy without wisdom, virtue, or proper limits tends to create disorder and can quietly open the door to tyranny. Plato was not completely against any popular participation, but he firmly rejected the idea that rule by the majority is automatically wise or just simply because it is democratic. In the Republic, he presents democracy as an attractive-looking system on the surface, full of color, variety, and freedom, but one that carries the seeds of its own destruction. History has already shown this cycle more than 2,000 years ago. We would be wise to learn from it instead of pretending democracy is brand new and destined to last forever.